And we're live.
Hello, Converted Man here, and Skeptic Skeleton.
Hello, everyone. I know I have not been making videos lately, so I apologize for that. But I have a very, very special project coming, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, so we're going to be talking about a controversial thing, and so I guess we should say first is what happened to this innocent man is terrible and horrible, and it is a miscarriage of justice, and hopefully the police officer responsible will be held accountable. And we care about all humans, and there are many things that we're going to complain about, and we're going to try to offer some insight and possible solutions, or at least how we should look at this in a skeptical manner rather than an emotional one.
Yes, and the goal is not to bash anyone. The goal is to make points. So the point is not, oh my God, such and such person is a terrible person. Such and such movement is a terrible movement. The point is, how are we going about achieving our goals? What are our goals? What is the point? How do we know the things that we know? Do we just watch what we see on CNN and believe and then go out and protest? Or do we have other reasons, other purposes? So we're here to question all of the things that should be questioned. However, we do not deny the horrific nature of the event that happened, nor do we justify the actions of the police officers, as long as we're clear on that.
Correct. Yeah. The police guy, I don't know the name. I'd have to but him, bad guy. Very bad guy. Don't like him. Okay, let's you have this video queued, and
yes.
I've been staring too long at this pink-haired person. So
yes. So this is Jacqueline Glenn.
Oh, okay.
And she made a video on Black Lives Matter.
Wow. Really? Wow. She looks totally different than what. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So I already watched the video, and it upset me to a great degree for a variety of reasons. And that's why I thought this would be a good example of, this would be a good thing to keep us on track. Because as you know, before we went live, we tend to go off on a lot of side tangents. But going through this could keep us on track, because she basically sums up a lot of what a lot of people are saying in regards to Black Lives Matter and race politics and things like that. So I thought this would be a good example to start with. So if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of like, we're not exactly responding to this video, but using it as a talking point.
Exactly.
All right, so, proceed.
Those of you who have been here for a while, yes, I know my hair is pink. That's different, but I would like to keep the comments on this video relevant to the topic, so they don't all need to be. I feel like I really should. I've spoken out about this on Twitter. I've posted on Instagram stories, and the reaction I've spoken out about this for a while, and I feel shouldn't be making what Instagram's for. And for everybody watching, this is a video that I've been told I shouldn't be making, but I thought about it for a while, and I feel like I really should. I've spoken out about this on Twitter. I've posted on Instagram stories, and the reaction I've gotten has been very different from people. Some people think because I'm white, I have no place to talk about anything. And some people who didn't see my posts about it have been angry with me for staying quiet.
So okay, so here's the thing that I want to address. This thing about, oh, well, you're white, so you're not allowed to talk about it. That's racist. That is judging someone's ability to hold a conversation based on the color of their skin and not the content of their character. That is racist. So I find it exceptionally strange that in the video about racism, there's this seeming self-hatred going on of like, well, whether or not I can talk about this depends on what my race is, and because I'm white, I guess I just can't talk about this. But if I was black, then I would use my freedom of speech as I am allowed to. I hate that notion. I hate the notion of people not being allowed to or not having places in conversations because of their race. Again, this is why I do my best to have my channel be as anonymous as possible, so you can't dismiss my arguments with those kinds of things, because those things don't matter. It doesn't matter what your race is, it matters what your reasoning is. And when you enter the conversation with, I don't know if I should be talking about this because I'm white, then that disqualifies me from having an opinion on something. I think that's ridiculous. And that's the type of thing that gets me upset.
Yeah, it is the whole, well, you know, you don't have the lived experience of that person, so you don't know what it's like. It's like, well, I mean, that's true of everyone that's not me. You don't know, you know, I mean, I've been through some things that weren't good.
Mhm.
Everyone has on different levels, and well, you know, I can't say that I've ever been had anything racist necessarily thrown at me, or if it did, it just kind of, you know, I ignored it as I did most insults. I mean, you know, so yes, I don't know what that's like. I can put myself in those shoes and imagine it and think about that and sympathize and, you know, whatever. But to say, well, you know, because you haven't experienced X, then you can't talk about it. Well, that's kind of, I guess we can't talk about death then, you know. I mean, you know, is that going to apply to everything, or is it just, well, you didn't do this experiment, so you can't talk about that experiment because you didn't experience that experiment in science for yourself? It's like, what? You know, I mean, how far does it go, right?
Exactly. And this is just about having a conversation. This isn't about you can't, it's not like they're saying you don't have enough evidence to support this claim, so you can't say that this claim is true because you don't have enough evidence. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is checking out your race and then evaluating your ability to be a part of the conversation based on that. Sorry, you're too black for this. You wouldn't know the white experience. You don't know what it's like to, what are some stereotypes? Have a white picket fence and go golfing. You don't know anything about that, so you can't be a part of that. And that is a particular thing that I notice different communities have to deal with. So, or different alleged communities, heavy air quotes. So there are individuals who grow up in America who tend to just like the things that are around them. They tend to like the musics that their peers like. They tend to like the sports, the events, things like that. But if that's not their cultural background, they get called white things. So then you're listening to white music and you're listening to you're watching white sports and you're engaging in these other things that have these racist labels attached to them. And it's just like, why can't things just be things? Why does everything have to be divided up in a racial category like that? Why can't we just like things? And why can't things be things? And in the same vein, why can't people be people? You don't know what a person, you don't know a people. Let me rephrase it this way. If you don't know someone personally, you have no right to say what they have and haven't gone through because you know nothing about them. And you're making that assumption based on their race. And the last time I checked, to make assumptions about someone's life experiences based on the color of their skin is racist. Or are we not playing by those rules today?
Yeah. It's like, well, there's a religion called the Black Hebrew Israelites, and
I'm aware.
you can't join it unless you're black. I mean, I guess you could try. I don't know. I'm not sure what would happen, to be honest. But, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, so this is operating at almost a religious level of adherence to this code. You cannot speak about this because you are not X. Yeah, no, you can speak about it. You have a viewpoint. You have an, you know, all that matters, or all that should matter, is the argument, not the person, not the group. The argument is all that matters. Nothing else. Oh, the person's a serial killer. Doesn't matter. Is their argument valid and sound? That's it. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Now, if they're a serial killer, just make sure they're at least like 30 feet away from me. But then we can get into the argument.
Yeah, well, yeah, social distancing.
Yes,
Come on,
of
serial
course.
killer, social distancing. I might have C-19. You don't know.
Exactly. But do you know, this reminds me of something. Back in my day, there was, and I know he's still around, but I haven't heard this much about him. Ken Ham. One argument that he used to make against evolution was, well, were you there? Were you there? Did you see the evolution happen? Were you there? Well, then you can't say it happened because you have to see it. You have to be there. That's what this reminds me of. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I can't deny other people's personal experiences. So there was, I promise this is relevant. I'm not trying to go off on a tangent. But a few years ago, there was an issue between two YouTubers, one Jeff Holiday, who's a pseudoscience debunker, and Trey Melvin, who used to just do commentaries, but now just does YouTube acting stuff, as far as I'm aware. So Trey made a comment about privilege and about how a poor white man is still more privileged than he will ever be, regardless of how much money he makes, despite the fact that Trey makes an inordinate amount of money working for YouTube on their projects and stuff. So when Jeff pointed out that that's ridiculous for you to be less privileged than someone who has significantly more money than you, because having more money means you have more ability to do things, there was just this descendance of like hate and chaos on Jeff, and it just rained down stupid people like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah, the whole privilege narrative, now that's being brought up again. I've seen that on Twitter, and it's like,
yeah. And
what is it? How does it work? Make a good argument for it.
Yeah, but that's exactly the thing. It's like, it's a thing that we say exists, and if you deny it, you didn't experience it or you didn't live it. And the problem with that is like, now I remember my train of thought. Personal experience is not evidence, no matter how many personal experiences you get. I saw a meme that said it had like one white person and then one black person. And the one black person says, well, I experience this all the time. And the one white person said, well, that's not enough. I haven't seen it, so I don't think it's real. Then the one black person had a bunch of different colored people behind them saying, we experience it too. And the one white person was like, nope, still not good enough. As if to imply that the one white person is deliberately being ignorant of experiences that they don't have, as opposed to wanting evidence. Because my father is a flat earther. So I have come across a great many flat earthers that have claimed to experience the flat earth. They see it, they know it, they've lived it, they experience it, and they're still wrong. So it doesn't matter how many anecdotes you have. The plural of anecdote is not data. You have to actually have something objective to prove your case, not just let me tell you a bunch of things that happened these one times, because those cases are valid in and of themselves, but they don't mean that the system is bad. You analyze how bad a system is by looking at the system, not by looking at the results of the system. And even if you did analyze it by looking at the results of the system, you only know about the cases of bad instances between the police and black men. They don't publicize it and bring it on the news and tell you about the one time the police officers were super nice to the black person. They helped them get home. There was no problems, no issues. They don't tell you about that because that doesn't catch headlines.
Yeah, that's rare. Like you know, there's a few news things. I remember the police officer that played ball with the kids and all this, you know, and every now and then you'll see some happy news, which is, I'm like, I just want a news program that focuses, you know, on this is the volunteer of the month, you know, and this is the good thing that this did, and whatever, you know, it's all nice stuff. That would be nice to have. I want that. But I was thinking of this in regards to personal experience, that this is something said by many people I've seen, is that, well, if it had been flipped and this had been a white guy that had gotten killed by, whether it's black, I guess a black guy, I don't know, whatever, then there'd be, you know, it'd be no trial. You just go to, you know, it'd be it'd be quick and swift, and everybody would be in an uproar, and it'd just be like, because this doesn't happen. It always happens this way to the black person. It never happens this way to white. It never happens that way to anyone else except for this. Like, let's ignore Hispanics. Let's ignore, Asian. Let's ignore all those. It's just no. It's a black and white issue, literally. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how broad of a brushstroke is that? And how do you know that it's the case that if it was reversed, that things would be different? Like, do we have data on that? And I wonder, is that what you want to happen? You want to see it completely reversed, and just so that you can say, aha, finally, we're even now. Like,
So, now that you mention that, there's this phenomenon that I notice people do a lot, where it is, how do I say, where they will use different cases from different situations to try to make the case that the system is rigged against black people. So they'll find one black person under one circumstance being charged for a drug crime, and then find a completely different circumstance on a completely different side of the country and a completely different jurisdiction and a completely different everything, and then say, look, this white person was charged with a different sentence than the black person was, despite it technically being the same drug charge. That is evidence that the system is biased and corrupt and all that. The problem with that is that is not a fair comparison, because you just took two random cases and compared them. If I looked hard enough, I could find two random cases and find one case where a white person was charged more harshly than a black person. That doesn't mean that the system is rigged against them, because two different sides of the country had two different rulings on cases that weren't even really that similar.
It's remarkably simple. I just say, well, you got O.J. Simpson, who beat a murder charge, and and then you've got anyone else. I mean, I can't form a team of lawyers, so I don't have, so I might be screwed in that situation, as he should have been, but whatever, I mean, he did pay and suffer somewhat, but that's the system isn't perfect. It doesn't always work. That's for sure. And yes, we can improve it. Yes, we should improve it. We need to improve it. There's many things we can do to do that. You can write, different levels of government, your worries, concerns, your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, whatever. And somebody somewhere might read it. I don't know. I mean, it's something. You're doing something positive rather than destroying property that isn't going to affect anyone but your own area and the people there, and they're just going to be, worse off than they were before. I recall this one woman, she was crying. She happened to be black. My store's been destroyed, my livelihood. This other person's dead, but he's in a better place, and I wish I was there now. It's like, wow, that's messed up, because she had nothing to do with it. Her business had nothing to do with anything. Yeah, and this other clip I saw, these kids, young teens, are in the house, like giving thumbs up to the people outside, and a brick comes through their window. It's like, we're on your side. We're on your side. It's like, they don't care, because they're not. It's not a side. When there's a riot, it's a different phenomenon. It's an emergent property of a big enough group of people who have, decided to go mad. And there's been studies on this sort of stuff, and it's amazing what human psychology does in those instances. It's not about sides. It's not about anything at that point. It's the mass hysteria grips everybody there. And if you're the right or maybe the wrong disposition, you too will join in the madness. even if you don't think that you want to, or even if you never would have done that otherwise. And there was reports where people were after the riot, like, I don't know why I was in that riot. I don't know why I did those things. I have no idea what I was doing. It doesn't make any sense to me, So, it's very, all of this. I wrote a blog and said, all of this is, we had C-19, we had, people chafing under that, chafing that they're not making money and their bills are piling up and they're freaking out, and and then they're not too happy about that, and then people protesting and people aren't happy at the people protesting, and then you had this, and it's like, okay, well, that's the excuse. Now it's time to go nuts.
Mm-hmm. And it seems that it would be naive to imply that all of the rioters, or even most of the rioters, are doing this for the cause. Because I posted this because I don't understand how some people think the line of reasoning is supposed to work. So, okay, I'm upset about an injustice that I perceive is happening to my community and people like me. So what do I do about it? I got it. I'm going to burn down the local store and steal everything they've got. Wait, how is that supposed to solve the problem? How is that like?
And even if it's burned down the police station, that's not going to solve anything either. That's not going to change anything. They're just going to say, well, okay, time to build a new police station. And by the way, we're going to raise taxes so that we can afford to do so. I mean,
we don't have a choice.
And now the police are really mad at the community. So now there's going to be more brutality because of it. It's like, it's this cycle. It's like, look, you have to, I've said this before, you have to meet violence with peace. Now, this is what Martin Luther King Jr. did. This is what Gandhi did. What others have done. And it works. Yes, they sometimes, well, a lot of the times they die, usually killed, which is, interestingly morbid and sad and weird. But the legacy and the champion of it lived on, and it actually had an impact. Now, how much you could maybe debate or whatever, but it did change things, because you had somebody that says, look, I'll cooperate. You tell me to leave, I'll leave. You tell me to do, but I'm going to do this thing, and this is why I'm doing it, and it's going to be peaceful, and this is what I want from it. And it's like, okay, is that what we're having? Well, some people are doing peaceful protests, sure. But then, there's other people doing riots, and that has nothing to do with protesting at even a little bit.
Exactly. And like I kind of said earlier, my major difference is in terms of goals. There were very specific things that previous leaders wanted to get done. So an example with Martin Luther King would be the right to vote. He wanted that specific right and went to get that specific right legislated. And then after that, he went to seek further legislation against the inevitability of people in power changing the criteria for being able to vote such that white people could and black people couldn't. So he had to seek even further legislation. But in every case, there was something very clear, very concrete, very specific that he was going for. It wasn't as simple as, well, I just want all of the racism to stop. That's too vague. You can't practically work towards that. They took specific steps, advocated for specific things, and that's how they got what they got. It was a combination of the not being violent and also having clear goals. Because if you don't have a clear goal, you can protest all you want. Nothing's going to change because you're not asking for anything specific to change. protesting death all you like is fine, but it's not going to make it go away. You have to come up with active solutions to problems. And the solutions are not to, as far as I'm aware, dismantle the Minnesota police, which is the latest thing that is allegedly happening, which I don't even know what that means.
It's like, we don't trust the police. We want them gone. Whoa, what? How? What are you going to do? Like, okay, what are you going to do in its place? Now, this one thing that actually was a false story, but it sounded interesting that they had hired private security instead of having a police force.
I've seen that a lot too, where people advocate for privatized security, and I don't exactly understand how the privatized security is supposed to help the situation. And some people are just like, well, that's the problem when you have a public situation. There's no competition. And if there's no competition, there's no one to hold them accountable. So,
yeah, I mean, you know, if you had private security rather than police, or you had the two and they both had equivalent powers of state or whatever, well, who knows how that would work or which one would be better or whatever. And, you know, it might just be a matter of training, and it might just be a matter of, you know, a whole lot of different things that go into it. All right, well, let's get back to the video, I suppose.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, either get rid of the video and we'll just keep talking, or, you know, pick one.
All right, back to the video.
Add some humor, yes.
It seems very split in opinion on whether or not I have any place to talk about this, but I am just going to do what I think is right. This is my channel, these are my opinions, and I'm following my heart on this one. Watching that video of George Floyd is one of the most disturbing things I have ever seen. And I understand that a lot of people have to struggle with racial profiling and discrimination. And I feel like it's obvious, but I do feel like I need to say that that is so wrong. That is not right. I do not agree with that. And I wish people could just be kind to one another. That sounds so naive and stupid, but should it really be that hard? Another thing that I've...
What, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I said, yeah. Okay, so racial profiling, is that what happened here? Was he racially profiled? And
how do you demonstrate that?
Right. Like, is that why? Now, I don't know. I have no idea. I also saw the video, and it was horrible, and it was a murder. Okay, but I haven't read anything about it. You know, I don't know why the police were arresting this person, why they'd been called, what they'd been told, etc. I have no idea. So I don't have any data to work on.
I actually do, as far as I can tell, based on various sources, including CNN. It originally was a matter of a fake dollar bill. So apparently he tried to buy something with a fake dollar bill, and then the police were called. And the details are extremely fuzzy because it wasn't accurately recorded until the police had already gotten there. And based on the conflicting autopsy reports between the family's private autopsy person and like the state autopsy person that did the autopsy at the hospital, he also was shown to have illegal drugs in his system. So there's a possibility that he was combative, or that he was violent, or that there had been something else going on that escalated the situation to where the person felt the need to call the police. I don't know. But the point that I'm making is that it's much more complicated than this. The police walked up to a black person and then grabbed him for no reason. There was an underlying context. And people tend to do this with videos a lot, where they see a video and then they go off of all that alone, instead of understanding that things happened before a video. There's a context before the video started playing, but people don't look into what happened before that. They just look at the video, say it was bad, and make their judgments on that, rather than looking at what was the context, what led up to this. Now,
right.
Now, like I said, as we said at the beginning, this is not a justification for what the police did, because even if he did have drugs in his system and was combative, this was still far and above any necessary lengths of force that should have been used. The point
Absolutely.
is that it wasn't as random as people make it seem.
Right. I mean, what these two guys, the one guy stood there, did nothing, and the other guy put his knee on the guy's neck. That's completely unnecessary. I mean, he was subdued, put on the handcuffs, put him in the car, and get going. It's unnecessary, unneeded, and pure evil, and they both need, to be held accountable, fired, put on trial, etc. And that's going to happen. It's not like it's not going to happen. It will happen.
Actually, as far as I'm aware, all 3 police officers have been charged. The original first police officer was charged with manslaughter, and they charged him with manslaughter instead of murder because they figured that charge would stick easier than a murder charge, which you then would have to demonstrate like previous or first degree murder charge. I'm sorry. And because that you'd have to demonstrate intent and pre-planning and things like that, whereas a manslaughter you could get based on just the video itself. And then the other 2 were charged with accessory, I believe. And I think we only have one other person viewing, but anyone who watches this in the future, fact check us. Do not believe the things that we say, just fact check us. So based on my understanding of that entire situation, justice has already been served. All 3 of the police officers have not only been fired, but prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So now what?
Yeah, well, they're still demanding justice. Well, what do you want? Do you want to string up the guys, and lynch them? I mean, is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking for a change in the system? I mean, what I know it's bad. I understand that. But what you're doing makes no sense in regards to this. And so, but back to the questions, like, well, okay, you brought up racial profiling. That might be the case. Do you have any way to show us that's what happened here? Like, do you have data that I don't have?
Mm-hmm.
If so, then show us that. Don't just tell us about, might have been that. Well, it could have been anything. Maybe they didn't, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I mean, you could just make up a thing and throw it out there. It would make just as much sense as say racial profiling. You don't know that. So why bring it up? You don't know that was a thing. I mean, yes, that is a thing that happens. Is that a thing that happened in this case? Okay, back to continue.
One more thing before we get back to the video. When it comes to unjustly murder cases like this, you should not play the rules differently based on race, which is what I noticed a lot of people do. So if I believe I posted this somewhere, I might have posted this on Twitter, I can't remember. I said, if you didn't know the race of this person, if I described the situation to you, but you had no idea what the person's race was, what would your reaction be? What would you be protesting right now? What would you be against? And whatever that is that going to be the same as what you're doing now, or is it going to change once you find out that he's black? Because if it changes once you find out that he's black, then for someone who wants equality, you're treating people's lives differently based on race, and I don't think that's how we achieve equality. But
yeah, it's well, the whole, the title Black Lives Matter. It's like, well, what do you mean? What the bleep is a black life? How about just human lives? But because we're focused on the this group of people that happen to be this color. Okay, why? Like, yes, it's bad that they get hurt, or killed or whatever, and it happens to other people too. And the data shows whites are killed at the same rate, or if not higher, and so that's not good. So the data doesn't support this idea, at least the data that I've seen, and we could give sources if people, want to see those. And if they demand it, great, I'll provide it. Study after study that I've looked at several different studies. And, yes, sometimes the black people are getting, hurt or killed more often. But a lot of the times it's the white people. And, well, why? Who knows? I don't know. Is it, well, white people must be racist against white people? I don't know. I mean, it's bad, period, because I'd rather the police use non-lethal force and primarily, or maybe only, um, well, it reminds me of this thing I saw. This police officer had tasered this guy, and he was like super high or whatever, and he kept getting up, and he tasered him again, and then he tried to grab his taser, and he was waiting for backup. He went up there on his own, just him, which was a bad move.
Yes.
And, he climbed up these stairs. So you're in a precarious place, waiting for backup in a very bad neighborhood, and this guy, grabs at his taser, and he says, "I don't want to have to shoot you." And they're trained that if somebody grabs the taser, that's like, then you have to shoot them, and he didn't shoot him, and he felt horrible. Immediately. So I didn't want to do that, and he walks off, and he's very sad and traumatized but that's what they were trained. They're trained that if somebody grabs the taser, you shoot them. Well, why? It's dumb. It doesn't make sense. So, and what happened there, the person didn't need to get shot, didn't need to get killed. He shouldn't have gone up there without backup. And what just happened was just a complete, it ruined lives, ruined his life, ruined their lives. It ruined the guy's life. Obviously he's gone now, and it's an unfortunate situation all around. And who knows, maybe he got fired. I don't know, but, what would you do if you were trained, this is what you're supposed to do, and then you don't do it, and then you get killed or you get fired or whatever? It's a no-win position for that person, the police officer in that case. It's a no-win for the civilian, because he's too high and drunk to know what's going on anyways. So it's bad. So,
Absolutely.
Okay. Racial profiling. Continue.
Mm-hmm.
Scene that's been really frustrating are people going out and standing next to protesters saying things like "all lives matter." This is clearly a problem. It is not a problem that white people have to deal with.
Bull. No. Yes, it is. Yes. No. I've seen plenty of clips of people being mistreated by the police as of late, and there's a number of reasons for that, but they're not black. They're different colors, all sorts of colors I've seen. And I have this article. Here's this, if you want to put that on the screen, the Daily News thing from way back. Here's a white guy that got killed by.
Oh, okay. You're gonna have to help me because I am slightly retarded and I don't know how to do screen sharing for someone else.
I don't. Well, hold on. Yeah, I'll figure that out. Okay, but at any rate,
or I was thinking you could post like the link in chat, and then I could open a tab for it.
It's in the private chat.
Okay, private chat. Okay,
there it is. If you clicked on it on the deconverted man's screen at the bottom, that would.
Oh, okay. There we go.
All right. Oh, ad blocker. Okay. Jeez. Hold on. It doesn't like ad blocker.
That's our citation. Ad blockers are our citations.
Ad blockers are racist against ads. Wait. What? I don't know. Okay, do it again there, please. There we go. Okay. So, okay, whatever. So there's a police body cam footage in this Tony's life here. It's this very, the police is, putting him on the ground forcefully, and the if you watch the video, which I'm not going to play because it's pretty disturbing, but they're laughing about the possibility of him dying, and it's brutal, and the guy did die, and that's not right. What happened there is wrong, but this police officer is white, and this guy is white, so there's an example of this happening to somebody that isn't black. So there's your counter example. This does happen.
That precisely. And my thing is, even if you couldn't, let's say you couldn't find an example like that because they're not as publicized in the media or whatever, just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because you can't think of any examples doesn't mean it's not a problem white people have to face. Unless you have some evidence, unless you did a study on white people, unless you did a survey, unless you did something to substantiate that, you can't just go, well, I'm white and I've never had to deal with that, and I don't know of any white person that has to deal with that, so all white people don't have to deal with that. Nobody gets to speak for their race. I don't care what race you are. That includes Jacqueline. And it disappoints me because I know she knows this, because I'm a fan of hers. Overall, I still like her. And I know she knows better than to just make up things without any evidence, which is what she's done, to just say this just isn't a problem white people have to deal with. Also, I want to point out something very important. She said her initial gripe was that people, not white people specifically, but people were going to protest saying all lives matter. And then she started ranting about white people as if that's what that means. And I don't think she understands what the sentiment all lives matter means. It is supposed to be deliberately more inclusive and include more people in the conversation, not just white people. It's supposed to include Hispanics. It's supposed to include Asians. It's supposed to include everybody. Because when you look to solve a problem, you look to solve the problem for everybody. You don't look to end Black cancer. You look to end cancer for everybody. And when people say all lives matter, they are trying to include them in the conversation. As far as I'm aware, anyone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, reach out. I'm not that hard to find, especially on Twitter, if I am in fact wrong about this. But people who say white lives matter do not go to Black Lives Matter protests and say, all right, go home. Everybody stop protesting. All lives matter. That's the end. Go home, go back to your lives. Everything's fine. No issues. No, people say that and they stand, because even she said they're standing there with them. They're standing there protesting as well. So it's not like they're trying to shut down the protest. It's not like they're anti the message. They're just trying to include more people. Now, why someone who wants equality is against the idea of inclusivity, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, the BLM has this weird phenomenon of, well, just because we're saying Black Lives, and again, I don't understand what a Black life. It just doesn't make sense to me. But whatever. Well, no, they're saying that all lives matter. It's just they're saying, but our lives matter, and we're asking you to focus on us right now. Okay, how about Blacks are being mistreated by police enforcement? Well, that's not a very good abbreviation. Okay, but you could, thing you want it to mean, but ultimately it doesn't really mean anything, and it is attached potentially to ideologies that are an issue. It's like, yes, all lives matter. All police brutality is bad. All innocent death is bad. All death is bad. Just in general, it's bad. Let's end that by not saying, well, but they're mistreated more. Okay, if that's the case, then all you have to do is produce that data. But that's not the case. The data doesn't agree. That's why I think that there isn't data being shown on the screen. This is coming from a place of emotion, not a place of logic or reason. The data disagrees. Yes, any given person, no matter what race, gets treated roughly or could get treated roughly. But, well, historically, they've been, no. Let's focus on today. The past is the past. Let's not keep bringing that back in. And I think that's another sort of thing is like, oh, what we did, we did, people owned slaves. It was so, yeah. That was before my time. I wasn't alive. Okay. So I'm not responsible for what happened at all. Not even a little. So let's just let that go. It's the past. Let's learn from it. We did. Okay. Moving on. Are black people getting mistreated today in today's day and age? Well, some of them are, sure. Why? Well, in what areas? And what is causing that? And how do we change that? What sort of mistreatment? And, what does that look like? And how can we address it? These are all critical questions that, well, you're trying to change the narrative from Black Lives Matter to All Lives Matter. How dare you? Well, then are you saying only Black Lives Matter? No. I'm not saying that. Okay, then what's the problem?
I'm not gonna spoil it. She says something about that a little bit, so I'm gonna let that play out. But one thing I wanted to say was, in terms of, because I get this a lot, the disproportionality thing. It happens to certain people more. Doesn't that matter? Because I don't think it does. And the reason I say I don't think it does is because when we're looking to solve problems for poverty and we're trying to look for solutions to poverty, we don't go, wait. Let's look at the racial demographics and then solve it one race at a time. No, you just solve the problem. When you're looking for the cure for cancer, go, wait, let's see who's affected by cancer most and then work on them and then get to everybody else. No, you just help everybody. There's no reason that you have to focus on Black lives and also not focus on others. You can focus on everyone's life altogether. You can do what you're doing and then some. So this is not a matter of trying to shift the conversation from, oh, we're just not going to talk about the Black lives. It's a matter of, yeah, we'll talk about the lives and the Asian lives and the Hispanic lives and the Native American lives, because this is also, all lives is not just white lives. If someone says all lives matter, they're not just talking about white lives too, which is why I pointed out what she said, because she just immediately assumed that this was like a white lives thing, when someone saying all lives matter could mean they're talking about Hispanics who also run into the police quite often, as stereotypes would be indicative of, as well as data of Native Americans, Asians, other minorities and demographics. Because if you think Black people are the only demographic to have a problem with the police, you're not doing your research.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could go to Africa and you could say, albino lives matter, because they get, any albino is pretty mistreated, broadly speaking. I dare say. I've seen and I've heard and read things about this, that it's like they killed them and then they ate them. It's like, why?
Yeah, but even
it's like, well, what about that? Well, that's, that's bad, but that's nothing to do with police brutality. No, it has to do with their weird beliefs and whatever caused that. Let's, what about that? Well, then it's a different problem. Yes, but it's still a problem, so does it make sense to say albino lives matter? No, it's just like, well, that is part of why they're being mistreated, is because they happen to be albino, and the people have a belief about the albino. So the belief is the problem, maybe, so it's just, but this is nuance, we don't need that. We need emotions. So, yeah.
And that's not to say I don't understand the emotion. I understand emotions. I'm human. I feel them, and I understand that they are not easy to deal with. However, if you have a for the situation, regardless of how disproportionate it may or may not be. Cancer is a problem for everybody. So let's look for the solution for cancer instead of looking for the solution for Black cancer, because Black cancer matters. That was basically my objection.
Yeah, no, I'm right on along with you, because it's not, it's everybody. This is police brutality is bad. Okay, there you go. Fix that, and then this. Well, people are still going to get hurt or killed. Okay, well then we'll address that. But if that's what this is about, then just say end police brutality. How about that? That's 3 words. EEB. There you go. There's your new. Maybe it doesn't roll. Yeah, it doesn't. We'll workshop it. Okay.
That's like walking into a rally for breast cancer awareness and being mad that they're not speaking out about people who are healthy.
No, it's not. Someone who is pointing out that everyone's life matters is not the equivalent of someone walking into a breast cancer rally and complaining about healthy people. What it's equivalent to is someone going to a breast cancer rally and making it known that there are other forms of cancer that do not get the same kind of public attention, awareness, and support that breast cancer does. Because everyone knows about breast cancer. They have Breast Cancer Month. They have support. They have parades, not parades. They have marches. They have events. I haven't heard anything about colon cancer or any other form of cancer, which everyone knows exists, but for some reason, at least in America, doesn't get the same kind of media attention. It's not about just saying, oh, let's focus on the healthy people too. It's let's focus on everyone who's being afflicted by this, not just the ones that happen to look a particular kind of way. Not even the ones that are disproportionately affected, because even if breast cancer also, fun fact, affects men. So if we only focus on breast cancer as a woman's issue, then we're not really doing the due diligence to men. So let's just focus on breast cancer instead of female breast cancer.
Yeah, I was going to say that it would be the equivalence would be that the rally or the protest that's going on is women's breast cancer matters, and a woman or a guy or whatever showing up and saying all breast cancer is a problem. And in fact, and then the other guy shows up, no, yeah, that's true, but all cancer is bad. It's like, oh, well, those guys, they don't belong here. They're ruining our protest. Well, no, they're I mean, geez, how
they're just trying to include more people in the conversation. And that's fundamentally, that's what this is about. It's about inclusivity. Now, if you think this isn't the effective way to go about doing that, that's okay. You can say that, but at least understand what our goal is. If you're objecting to me on the grounds that I'm trying to include more people in the conversation, then I don't understand what your goal is. Because if the goal is equality, why are you fighting inclusivity? And that's the problem. I don't really think she understands. And I think this applies to a lot of people who support Black Lives Matter. I really don't think they understand that all lives matter is not a contradictory sentiment. It is not against what you're saying. It is supporting and, in fact, including other people, not just white people, because people get bent out of shape, other minorities in the conversation. So I don't understand this idea. I don't see what's so objectionable about it. That's what I'm saying. I do not understand what is objectionable about trying to include more people into a conversation of whose life matters.
Right. It's like you're ruining our protests. And it's like, well, we humans specialize. Like, there's a foot doctor, and then there's a general practice doctor. So he's like the general practice doctor going, yeah, there's something wrong with you, but you have to see a foot doctor. Because I know some stuff, but the foot doctor knows more. It's like, okay, so are you saying that the protest about, whatever, in this case, Black Lives Matter or whatever, well, yeah, that's about this specialized thing. And later we'll do a generalized protest. It's like, well, yeah, I would believe that if I saw it, but that's not what's happening. So this isn't like we're specializing in protests. So that might be a way to go about it, but then, you know, if you have too many protests, then they lose effect too. So you've got to, well, protests, yeah, there's a whole topic there. Anyways, but yeah, it's not about Jacqueline, just to be clear. It's not specifically about her. It's all these, you know, she's serving to bring forward the talking points.
Yes, I'm only using her as an example. It's not about her personally. But to go with the example you just gave with the doctor, diabetes type, as far as I'm aware, I'm not a doctor, everyone fact check me, diabetes type 1 severely can affect your feet. So if you go to a foot doctor and they do treat your feet are a problem, but they still need to care about the rest of your body because there's a root problem that leads to other complications, which is the diabetes. So it's not, so if someone suggests, hey, I know you just saw the foot doctor, but can you see all the other doctors too? Because it might be an underlying condition that's causing your feet problems. We're not dismissing the fact that you have foot problems. We just want you to get your entire body checked out because it might be a larger, deeper rooted issue than just feet problems.
Skeleton, foot lives matter.
Skeleton foot lives matter.
This is anti-Ninja Turtles now.
All right, back to the video.
It's like a rich person walking into a fundraiser for homelessness and expecting to receive part of the funds.
Again, no, it's not.
It's not anything like that.
Not at all. And this is what I mean. If you're making these analogies demonstrate that you don't understand the message that's being put across. The message is not, hey, we're having a conversation about all lives matter. Focus on me. My life matters too. Let's talk about me. My life is the one that matters. Let's talk about me. That's not the point of the message. The point of the message is, while we're on the subject, let's bring in all these other people whose lives matter and have a conversation about everybody. And you're like, no, don't bring everybody in here. What you're doing bringing all those Asians and Hispanics up in here? This is a Black conversation. That's what you sound like right now when you make analogies like this.
Well, yeah, simply put, argument to bad analogy. So,
yes.
All right.
So, you are not the one with that struggle.
How do you know that?
You don't know that? Come on, what do you read my mind? How, like, this would require massive mind reading to know this. Like, I mean, it's just, this is too broad of a brush stroke to paint. Yeah, this isn't your problem. Well, you don't, I mean, how do you know? You know, well, anyways, it's all the things we already said. So,
yes, I'm a skeleton. So you don't know what my race is. You don't know what my gender is. You have no idea what my previous experiences have been. And
yet, you're white, so you're white.
So based on, and even when she gave the example of the All Lives Matter people, note, she did not say what their races were. So she didn't say it was just white people. She just said people. So you know nothing about me. You don't know my race. You don't know my gender. You don't know my prior experience or anything about that. Yet somehow you've come to the determination with no evidence whatsoever that this isn't a problem that I have to deal with. What if I'm a Black person that says all lives matter? Then what? How does that change the narrative?
You're a race traitor or something of that. You know, I'm not saying that she would say that. I'm just saying somebody would, oh, you're a race traitor, you know, whatever. Well,
but that's my point. If your argument changes based on what my race is, and I say, well, I'm Black and I do deal with this, and now you're like, oh, okay, that's different. You're a Black person saying all lives matter. All right, that's different. I gotta treat you differently. I thought you were white for a minute. I was gonna treat you differently based on your race, but now that you're Black, I'm gonna treat you differently based on your race.
Well, that, you know, I suppose, you know, I don't know what it's called when it's positive race. Like, oh, you're this, so I favor you more. Like, is that still? I guess it's still racism. It's just like, it's positive racism. It's, you know, like, I like Japanese women because I do, but I like women. Yeah, it's just, you know,
If it's racist when the white people, if it's racist when the white supremacist prefers white people and supports white people ahead of people, then it's racist when you do the same thing to Black people. Treat me like everybody else. Don't treat me special because I'm Asian or Hispanic or whatever.
Just because the bones might be white on the outside and the inside is still black because there's marrow. Well, actually, it's red, and then this analogy.
Yeah. I see. This is why I became a skeleton. I ripped my skin off so I didn't have to deal with this problem anymore.
Yeah, now you just got, now we're down to the bare bones of the matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
You have no place inserting yourself and trying to put attention on you. It's not right. Like, I can't imagine if I were to go back in time when women did not have the right to vote, and like, think about what it would feel like to stand with other women demanding your rights, demanding to be treated equally, demanding that your vote matters. I mean, imagine holding a sign saying my vote matters and then having a man walk in and say all votes matter.
I guess you don't know history because it wasn't just women that couldn't vote. Some men couldn't vote as well.
Uh-huh.
Study the suffragist movement. It wasn't just women that couldn't vote. Do you not know history? I mean, just saying, just asking the question. But this is
go ahead.
This huge tangent to it. But yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, even if we put that to the side for a minute, this analogy also fails because you're trying to compare women who did not have the right to vote at the time with Black people who, as far as I'm aware, possess all of the legal rights that white, Black, Asian Americans have. There is no right that Black people do not possess and is not legally enforced as far as I'm aware. Now, if it is, then we should be talking about that instead of this. So you can't compare Black people who have all the rights to women at a period where they didn't have all their rights. And even if you did, a man coming up in that era and saying all lives matter is the same thing as telling you that your life matters. If I tell you that everyone's life has value, that includes you. The man in that scenario is including you and trying to strengthen you by putting you on the same level as him and saying both of our votes matter. Your vote matters. This is my vote matters.
Right. Yeah. They're saying
right. That's the objectionable sentiment here.
So basically, are you saying no? Look, you can't have this narrative of all votes matter, but I can't vote. Yeah. But mostly women can't vote. So only a few men, and even if let's just pretend that's the case, there's just You're saying, well, but yes, but it's still affecting me. Well, whatever. We're fighting for women's right to vote. Well, what about my right to vote? Screw it. So you don't want him on your side, or her, or whoever on your side, because why? Because, well, that's not what we're doing right now. Okay, but
why can't that be what we're doing?
There was white, this is amazing. There was a lot of white people that worked with MLK Jr. So, it's like, oh, well, it's like, bad analogies are still bad. Also, history, oh my word, please, for the love. Anyways, all right. It's kind of a big tangent. But yeah, I mean, I suppose somebody would, this is something that somebody could go off on. So yeah.
Yeah.
You already have that right. You already have that privilege. When people say Black Lives Matter, they are trying to say that all lives matter because they're the ones that have been struggling with it. As far as
okay, so I'm gonna nitpick at her phrasing a little bit. So she said, you don't, or you already have those rights. Again, you don't know me, so you're just assuming that. In your analogy, that might be true, but when she spoke about the people who said all lives matter, she didn't say what their genders or their races were. So you don't know what my struggles and my issues are because you don't know. All you know is I said a phrase that triggered you. Second, in terms of, I'm trying to remember, in terms of, I lost my train of thought. Would you hate me if I went back and replayed the clip again?
No, I'd hate you if you were, I don't know, I was gonna say pink, but that's Pinksist, so Pinksist lives matter. I don't know.
Right. You already have that privilege. When people say Black Lives Matter, they are trying to say that all lives matter.
Okay. Now I remember. So here's
Then
the other
just
thing.
say the thing that you want to say. Then just say it. Then I mean,
Exactly.
so it's like, well, no, you're saying the same thing I'm saying. Well, yeah. So what's the problem then? Well, but you're not saying the same thing
What's
I'm
the point
saying.
of disagreement? If
Yeah,
you're trying to say that all lives matter, then just say that. And if that's what you're trying to say, why are you getting mad at me for saying what you're trying to say?
I'm saying Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black matters. No. You didn't say lives. Oh, sorry. Black life matters. No. It's lives. Oh, okay. Blacks' lives matter. No. It's black. It's not blacks. Oh, okay. You know. I mean, come on. How pedantic are you gonna be? I mean, just but you're saying that you're not saying what everyone else is saying. Well, that's true. I'm not, but I'm still with you on this, and it's just that I note that people are getting hurt and killed by police brutality, and that's bad. And let's stop that and forget about this whole playing the race card, because that's all this is about. This is only affecting the black people are the only ones that are ever hurt or killed by police, or they're killed so much more often that we need to focus on them. And yeah, the other lives matter, but we're not, that's not really what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about is this. So it is different. There is a difference, and your cognitive dissonance isn't allowing you to see the difference.
If we went at this issue without regard to race and solved it, hypothetically speaking, let's say we found the solution and solved it as a police brutality matter without regard to race, tangentially, that would solve the problem of how it affects Black people. So that still would turn out to be a benefit. So if we address this issue without regard to race and just with regard to how bad the problem is fundamentally, and we change the fundamental nature such that police brutality significantly declined, then it would significantly decline for everybody, including Black people, which I presume is the goal. So my point is, but why not do that if that not only helps your goal, but helps everybody else too?
Right. So then it just feels to me, and so this is a feeling. It's not something, I don't have an argument per se. It's like, oh, okay, so this isn't about actually the race. This is about using race as a political movement of sorts. Because the data doesn't agree with you, and you haven't said any data. Did she have any citations at all in the description? I doubt it. Again, not that this is about this particular video, but my point is, do you, whoever you are, that is making the case or trying to make the case, BLM matters or whatever, let's just stop with the slogan. We don't need the slogans. Let's focus on the problem, and that will fix it for everyone, and then that will solve the problem for everyone, including Blacks. As you said, it makes more sense, but I have to wonder if it's not really about fixing the problem, but it's really actually about something else. And then I get really jadedly skeptical about the whole thing. Like, you're just, you're saying Black Lives Matter, but you don't give two rats' tails about it. You're just using this as a race card bait in order to do something else and, forward some sort of political agenda, yada, yada, yada. It's like, I don't know that either. I don't know any of that's true. Mm-hmm. But, if you're going to play this, well, I know what you're thinking game, I can play it too, right? Not that it's a good game to play. But, let's say all lives matter. Forget the whole slogan. Let's just say stop police brutality, because that's supposedly, hypothetically, what this is about, broadly speaking. And if it's not about that, then it is about race. And if it is about race, okay, is it about racism? Because racism is bad against anybody, not just Blacks. So let's how do we end it? Racism? Well, I have to kind of agree with Morgan Spurlock on it. Just don't talk about it. Don't celebrate him because he's a black that happened to get all the success. Celebrate him because he got all the success. Yeah,
Morgan Freeman said something that I very much agree with. And I think I'm quoting the same thing you're quoting, where he was talking to an interviewer and they said, how do we put an end to racism? And he said, stop talking about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Right.
Yeah, and he said, I'm going to stop calling you a white man. I'm going to address you by your name, and you're going to stop calling me a black man, and you're going to address me by my name. Problem solved.
Right. Now,
and obviously, it's not to say, because I know people will take this out of context, that's not to say literally just do that and that solves all of the racism problems forever, but how you view a problem affects the problem. So if you view this as a black and white problem, then that's what you're gonna get. That's right. How you downgrade it, basically.
There's reasons that police brutality exists, and that we could go over all that, and that's what I think we should be doing. That's kind of why, you and I wanted to do this, is say, look, a lot of things built up to where we are now, where people are protesting this person's death, but then there's people that don't even know that the person died or care or anything like that, and they're just using it as an excuse to be bad actors and do whatever nonsense that they want to do.
Exactly.
The protests are one thing. Good, fine. Protests are fine. Riots are not a protest. Riots are wrong, evil, bad, vile, and have nothing to do with anything. But they can be understood. All of it can be understood with human psychology. Even the police brutality, that can be understood. If you make somebody anonymous and you give them power, then they will start acting more and more brutal. So what you do to break that is you make them less anonymous. You make it so that their name is on their thing clearly and in bold, and you make it, maybe you make it that less about police trying to entrap, trying to get people on, whatever, and make it that they're friendly and that they actually, change the system. How do we do that? Okay, do we write the mayor? Do we write the governor? Do we write the police department? Who do I write in the police department? Or let's start a mailing campaign. Let's, set up an interview. Let's talk to them, whatever. That will fix it, not yelling into the void. All that does is, well, yeah, it's going to get you on TV maybe, but then that's another question. It's like, well, why is it getting on TV? They're not doing anything useful with that either. So you're all yelling and wanting change, and if nobody is actually doing something other than yelling, then why would anything change? It's like you actually have to do something, whether it's vote or do a campaign, letter writing, email writing, petition.
Propose a piece of legislation.
Yeah, right, exactly. Hire some lawyers. Everyone could pull their money together and say, okay, look, we're going to hire some lawyers. We're going to get, for example, these stupid laws that exist, like don't have an ice cream cone in the back pocket. Okay, well, that could go away, but somebody somewhere has to hire a lawyer that's willing to fight to get rid of that law, because it takes an effort. Okay. And it's going to take a while. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be overnight. It might take years. It might, but at least you're actually progressing towards the solution. And here we're just complaining about the fact that people are hijacking your precious protest, because your protest is yours or it's not yours, it's their protest because you are white, and so you can't protest. The only people that can protest the person getting killed or the person of the color that fits with or whatever. It's all nonsense.
They can protest. They just have to protest the same message. You can't protest a different message. You got to be. You have to have right thing.
Okay, yeah, right think. Yeah, that's right. We have to be part of the hive mind. Oh, that's
Yes.
not going to end badly. and
At
then
all.
you're
That's
doing
never had negative
yeah.
consequences
Well,
whatsoever.
then of course it was like, well, why is white supremacy on the rise? It's not. I don't think. I haven't been. Well, yeah. Well, but the KKK, yes, that exists. Are there more than there was before, or something? No. Okay, well then how is it on the rise? Where's this white supremacy on the rise? I can hear about it, I read about it, and I go, where's your data? Where's your examples? Something, give me something. Nope, it is. Okay. Well, Black Panthers are on the rise. I can say things too that aren't necessarily true. Those organizations are both bad because they teach an ideology that our color is better than other colors. Well, that's stupid. Your color doesn't do you diddly squat, and we need many multiple colors because we need a big gene pool. Because that protects us to some extent, unless of course China kills us with the C-19 thing that they definitely manufactured and. Well, no, they did. Who knows if they did? It doesn't matter. It's here. It doesn't matter. Well, probably did. I don't know what they. I've heard both sides, so I'm like, I don't know anymore. It doesn't. I don't care. It doesn't change it. It's like, okay, well, protest C-19. Oh yeah, okay. Bad C-19. Down with C-19. Yeah, but all diseases are bad. No. You have to be with us and say down with C-19. We're only focusing on that right now.
Restricting our freedoms to
Walmart. How dare you? You're a virus ist. I don't know. Virus lives don't matter. I don't know. Anyway.
But yeah, I was just giving a quick glance, and I did this before because I've seen the video before, but she doesn't.
No citations of anything.
She has, let's see, follow me, buy my things, buy me things, follow me, subscribe, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me.
Okay, now here's my thing. Okay, this is kind of tangential, and I don't want to focus too much on her. But, this was really hard for me to make this video. Oh, okay. Then you don't need any of that stuff at all.
Yeah.
You don't need to say that it was hard. You don't need your likes enabled. You don't need even comments on. Okay. Just saying. Maybe you are using this to get a little bit of attention to your channel. Maybe. I don't know. But, my jadedness is kicking in, man. Help me to be skeptical. Help me not to give in to the jaded. This draws me in. Okay, anyways. But yeah, I mean, I talked about it because I care and I want people to be at peace. My call was a call for peace. Whether or not, some people disagree or think I'm off kilter or what have you, and that's fine. Great. But it comes, it is from the heart, so to speak. It is, I want people to be at peace and not to be violent. I don't want this to be happening. I don't like it. And
exactly.
I want us to love and cherish each other and support each other and help each other and figure out how to fix the problem. And if it is racism, okay, that might be the case. Then there's a way to show that, to prove that. Otherwise, it's just, are we working on hunches? Or are we working on, I only seen police brutality against black people, so therefore it must only happen to them. And it's like, it happens to other people. Well, no, but it happens to them more. Well, maybe that's true, maybe not. But why not treat this topic as we would any other topic where it's a serious issue? We talk about God and, God doesn't exist and all this. Yeah. That's my main thing, and to some extent it's your thing too. But when I go off on, kind of political stuff like this or whatever, I'm going to be bound to say stuff that's wrong, completely and utterly wrong, because I'm dumb. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I don't know politics. I don't know why. you know. But if anything that I'm saying is valid or sound, rather, if the logic is sound, if it's reasonable, and all we're calling for here is reason. We want people to be reasonable, because emotional people aren't going to fix it. Reasonable people might not fix it either, granted. And I've seen people say, well, people ignored the peaceful protest of the blacks or whatever. You see that guy that took a knee? They ignored that. No, they ignored that because that was stupid and wasn't a protest. Well, they ignored it because it was no. You don't know. You don't have any idea why people ignored it.
But this is the thing about not having a clear, concrete goal. You have no measurable way to tell if you're making progress if you don't even know what your goal is. So what is the ideal situation? What was the expected response? You take a knee and they go, all right, brilliant. We're going to dismantle police. Or brilliant. We're going to instantly make up a legislation that will improve this. What is the goal? What do you want by taking a knee?
Yeah, you're not even telling us what the bleep you want.
If I don't respond, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I don't know what you want. You don't get to just drive up to McDonald's. And I know that I understand that social justice is not the same thing as McDonald's. So please don't think I'm comparing it to it. But it's about, in terms of communication, if you walk up to the window at McDonald's and you take a knee, what do you want me to bring you? A burger, fries? What do you like? What that doesn't message to me. I don't know what you want me to do. And that's the thing. Say specifically what you want to do. Say, we want body cams to be public records. The police should not be able to edit them. They should not be able to house them. They should get sent to an entirely separate place, where a library where anyone can go see them. So it's always public records and everyone has access to it with no editing whatsoever.
Live stream it 24/7 onto YouTube.
Yeah, something like that. And that's not to say that's
or whatever other social platform,
Yes, and that's not to say this is me and Deconverted Man have come up with the perfect solution and fixed the problem. No, that's not the point. The point is what we're doing, coming up with solutions. That's what I would like to see being done. And thankfully, I have seen some more of that on Twitter. I just wish that's what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
We want legislation.
I'm seeing too much adherence to this sort of us versus them mentality. And it scares me because it's coming from otherwise reasonable people. But exactly. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just because you're an atheist or a skeptic doesn't mean you're immune from magical thinking. So you have to just say, well, what does it mean to be a skeptic? It means to doubt. What am I doubting now? Am I doubting that Black Lives Matter? Well, yeah, because I don't even know what that means. So I'm trying to figure out what it means. And it's a slogan. Okay, that's what I've come to. Is that conclusion wrong? It could be. What's your argument against it? Well, what's my argument for it? Well, my argument for it is, I've already said basically what my argument is for it. But regardless of, it's like, well, that's the debate you want to have. Well, no, I mean, I'll debate anything, but if you bring it with logic and reason, and your argument is there, then I'm wrong and you're right, and that's it. And then I go, okay, well, let's do what you want to do then. So this isn't an argument. She's not making an argument at all. And broadly speaking, these talking points that are coming up on Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, are not logically based, data-based arguments. They're emotion-based. This keeps happening to these people. This happens all the time. It always happens. It's like you're dealing in absolutes and universals here, and that's not good. If you can replace the word, somebody said, about privilege, and it's like, what the hell is that? Well, privilege, yada yada yada. And I said, okay, replace the word privilege with God, and see if your argument is still broken. And I laid it out. I said, if you replace the privilege with God and said, well, God exists and yada yada yada, it's you would see how broken the Darwin argument is. So if you want to say that it's a thing, then you're going to have a way better argument than you do. And so then I saw this person go, I need a poll on privilege. And I'm like, that's not how to convince anybody that it's a thing, because you're appealing to what? Majority?
So,
yeah, I mean, so you're committing another logical fallacy to prove your argument. Yeah.
Funny story. I used to have a different Twitter account, and on that separate Twitter account, I got into a Twitter beef with Scott Clifton. And this was around the time that Gillette video came out.
Man.
So I was pointing out all the things I thought was wrong in that Gillette video, especially one section in particular where a man said, what I think she's trying to say is, and then it had the woman looking down and forlorn. And from that, he was like, see, that's mansplaining, and that's a serious problem in our society. And I'm like, okay, just take that. I'm like, just take the clip by itself. You don't know the past context. You don't know what she was going to say. You don't know if it actually needed paraphrasing. And if you're trying to tell me that rephrasing things that women say is a problem in society, that sounds very much not like a problem. But then here's what he did, and this is why this is relevant. He was, because I was trying to tell him, even if all women agree that something is bad, that doesn't automatically make it bad or negative. We can't just give in to the mobs of people when they say things. Things have to be demonstrable on their own, not just because look at all the people who said so. And the first thing he did was, well, he asked his fans. He was like, hey, female fans of mine, how do you feel when a man rephrases something that you say? And because they're your fans, of course they're going to agree with you. They're your fans. They're your followers. They think like you. And then he's like, look, it's not exactly a 50-50 divide. And I'm like, congratulations. You got a popularity of people that think right.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, well, but we wouldn't be here complaining about this in this way if people were being reasonable. And
yeah,
that's all that I guess that's really in the end all I'm asking for is let's use reason on this. Let's call it here, and because we've gone an hour some odd and my brain is churning too much, and we can return to this video or any other video somebody sends to us, because I'm gonna tweet out this and see if anyone cares enough to listen to us talk about this.
I'm actually going to stick around for a little bit more because there's stuff that I still want to say on this. Okay. And then you can still put this out, and if anyone wants to do a follow-up, we can do a follow-up. Answer questions.
I'd like to continue our conversation about the situation and these things, race and police and C-19 and all the different, we'll solve all, we won't solve any of the problem, but hopefully we can encourage people to use reason rather than reaction. Let's disconnect a little bit from the mob. Maybe that's the other thing that's sinister about how dare you not be part of our chant, because, well, I'm not part of your mob. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to be my own thing. And,
resistance is futile. Join the collective.
Yeah, be a Borg. Well, Borg lives matter, but I'm gonna say no. I mean yes, but let's make it so they can't assimilate us, and then maybe we can deal with them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
well, I definitely appreciate having you on.
Yeah. I want to have this have another conversation with you about this or any other topic, but if I keep going, like I said, my brain. You see it.
Yeah, I see it happening.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I'm mush. Okay.
Thanks again for joining. I'll see you in the next stream.
All right. See you later.
See you later, man. Alrighty then, so he's gone. So I'm just going to continue to go through this as best I can on my own and just naturally give my thoughts. And hopefully I can be coherent without having someone else to curtail me, because I tend to be all over the place. Anyway, back to the video.
Because they're the ones that have been struggling with it.
They who? Because you didn't say black people specifically, you said people who say Black Lives Matter. So you presumably don't mean members of every race that say that. You presumably only mean the black ones, because if you meant everybody who says that, that would include white people who you previously said this does not apply to. So you have to be talking about black people in this scenario, which again, how do you know that? Are you going to show your work? Are you going to support the things that you say? Or are you not going to? I am not telling anyone in this stream, or at least that's not my intention, to tell you what to think about this situation. I'm simply here to ask questions. I'm simply here to raise skepticism. I'm not an expert. I don't make any claims to be an expert. At the same time, I also want a balanced conversation. And if I see the conversation is unbalanced, I find it necessary to question how the conversation is going. And this does not seem like a balanced conversation. This seems like an almost unanimous agreement conversation, which isn't necessarily wrong, but nothing is above criticism and nothing is above scrutiny or skepticism, including Jacqueline herself.
As far as the cops go, whenever I was tweeting and ranting online, I brought up that I don't know that third-degree murder charges satisfy me.
I find this to be an important point as well, because the point of charges is not to satisfy the mob. So you should not go into this expecting that the charge be the one that you think is warranted and be the one that you think sticks. That is a problem. If you go into something like that and you're going for your own personal sense of justice, then you're not really going for the purpose of punishment. You want whatever will make you feel good and feel right and feel like the person got what they deserved. And that's not how the justice system operates. And that can't be how the justice system operates. No matter what the sentence was, someone was always going to be unhappy with it. You can't make sentences that are going to be happy with, that everyone's going to be happy with. So I say that to say that the goal going into the sentencing is a little bit misleading. If your goal is to go in to be satisfied, you're going to be dissatisfied, because that's not the purpose of the punitive system. Nor should it be, because we can't satisfy everybody.
I feel like I've heard rumors that the cop knew him before, that they had worked together in some kind of security guard situation. And if that is true, then...
If that is true, then that makes this far less of a racial thing and far more of a personal thing, no? Like, if he knew the man specifically and then targeted the man specifically, then it seems like he had a problem with the man specifically and not because he was black, which then kind of gets the Black Lives Matter thing out of the situation, because it's not about him being black. But since you're going to bring up these rumors, are you going to give an example or a citation or something that I can go follow or anything? Or are you just going to say that you heard a thing somewhere, someplace?
I do think first-degree murder would be way more appropriate. And the difference is one is premeditated, one is thought out and planned, and the other one is manslaughter. And I was really angry that the police officer didn't get charged with more, at least second degree. So that's one thing I would like to correct myself on. I have seen quite a few lawyers.
What was the correction?
Some other legal personnel explain this, and their reasoning for it, or their suspected reasoning for it, is that a first-degree murder charge would be a lot harder to win. So his chances of getting away with all of it would be much higher if he went for a first-degree murder charge. But if you go a third, which is manslaughter, it's almost a guaranteed conviction. I would really love to know your thoughts about this in the comment section below. That made a lot of sense to me, but if it's complete bullshit, please correct me. This is all very confusing. I am certainly not a lawyer.
Neither am I, and I don't particularly think it matters, because I think getting them charged is enough for now. I think we have to take what we can get and then work from there. Once we get to a basis where police officers are regularly charged for things like this, then we can work on what the charges are. But if, as is proposed, police officers are getting away with this willy-nilly, then we need to work on what charges we can get first and then work our way up from there. That's my uneducated, unlawful opinion about it.
I know me making this video isn't extremely revelatory about anything. This isn't new news to anybody, but I do think that there is power in speaking out.
Speaking out how? Because it's easy to say that, and everyone says that. Yeah, you should speak out, you should use your voice, but you have to be specific. Speaking out and saying, do all of the good things. That's not a bad message by any stretch. Telling people to do good things isn't a bad message, but it's not specific. It's not clear. It's not realistic. How do you achieve that? What constitutes as a good thing? And how do we measure whether or not we're doing good things or we're not doing good things? I don't think you're being specific enough. I don't think speaking for the sake of speaking does anything. I think speaking to put across a very specific and achievable message is what matters, not just speaking for the sake of saying, hey, look, I spoke.
I think there is power in peaceful protest. I think using social media, especially if you have a platform to do so on, is important. It's important to stand together. It's important to stand up for humanity. It's important to stand up for equal treatment of all people. And when there's clear injustice, I don't feel comfortable saying nothing.
And I get that. And I've already said how I feel about the social media posts and things like that. Be clear and specific and promote a specific thing, not just we stand with the Black community, stop the bad things, because that's not actually pragmatically helpful. In theory, it's nice and all, but it doesn't do anything in and of itself.
And being quiet. So I hope people aren't too upset with me that think that I have no right to speak. I think there is power in joining together as human beings. I mean, I've done similar things for the LGBT community before. I am not a part of it, but I have supported it since before gay marriage was even legal.
I'm going to make this point, and I'm going to do my best not to go too much off on a side tangent. I explained this earlier. I don't believe that there are the communities, and I don't think that if there were these communities, that supporting the communities in and of themselves is helpful. I don't think that supporting Black people is a good thing. Now, before you downvote the video and get it demonetized and all that fancy stuff, hear me out. Support good people. Support people who've earned it. Support people who are worth it. Don't just blindly support an entire race of people, because some of those people are bad and terrible and do not deserve your support. And you wouldn't know that because you haven't investigated them. You just looked at the color of their skin and went, great. Do not support people based on their race or their sexuality or anything like that. Support people based on the people themselves. So I would not describe myself as someone who supports the LGBT community, because I don't believe there is an LGBT community. I would say I would support the rights of people in general, and LGBT people are people, so I support their rights along with everyone else's. It might seem like a minor nitpick and a distinction, but it's an important one to me, that I'm supporting people, not races.
And I don't think major movements would be successful if it weren't pushed by a large group of people and not only the targeted group. I think.
But where exactly are you pushing it? Where is the destination? Because again, we haven't talked, or she hasn't brought up any clear, distinct destination that you're supposed to be getting pushed to. So again, this is nice and all. To have a push for a movement is nice and all, but if the movement doesn't have a clear destination, that push is going nowhere fast.
There is strength in being an ally. I think that's an important thing. And whenever it comes to situations like this, when there's police brutality and clear discrimination.
Clear discrimination, she says. How do you demonstrate this clear discrimination? Because if I said that there was clear evidence that the universe was created by an omnipotent, omniscient, timeless, spaceless Jewish zombie, I'm pretty sure you would say, clearly, how did you come to that conclusion? You'd want some evidence for that. But apparently you just, either you didn't have any evidence or you couldn't be bothered to bring it to the table. Which is it? people tend to do this a lot where they just assume what they think is a problem is so clear and obvious that they don't even think it necessary to demonstrate what they're saying to other people. But I do. I'm not convinced. I'm not sold. I don't believe I have enough information to say this was definitely a racial crime or to say it definitely was not. I simply don't have enough evidence, and I'm just a guy on YouTube going around looking for stuff. I'm a skeleton on YouTube going around asking people questions and stuff. So
that's a scary, terrible world that I don't want my children to have to live in. I want everybody to be united, to be working together, to stand up whenever you see somebody else being mistreated. Even if it's not you, you do something about it. You don't sit by silently. You don't say nothing. You do something about it.
While I understand the sentiment and generally I think that's good, I don't think everybody can be cooking in the same kitchen, if you know what I mean. That is to say, sometimes you have to let professionals do their job. Sometimes you have to do what's best for someone, even if that means not intervening. It's not always necessarily a good thing to jump in, is what I'm saying. If we didn't know the context of the situation with George Floyd, and as per some people suspect, and by some people, I mean randos on the internet, so don't trust them any more than you don't trust me, that he had illegal drugs in his system. Like that one of the autopsies showed that he had methamphetamine in the system. And if you just see someone being handled in a rough way and you immediately run over and try to shove the police off of him, but because he is very, very high on drugs, he's a threat to himself and everybody, and then he bites you, then you see, you shouldn't have gotten involved in that. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not saying that's what didn't happen. I'm saying you have to fully think before you leap. Look before you leap. Analyze, do research, make sure that it actually is what it appears to be, instead of going with your gut feeling and jumping into circumstances you don't really know anything about.
I do want to be clear because I know I'm going to get this comment. No, I don't think looting is okay. I don't think hurting people is okay. You know, I read an article earlier about a Black family that had their entire business destroyed.
Which would be a very interesting article that I hope you would share with us, but apparently you couldn't feel bothered to.
Windows broken, items stolen, things set on fire.
And I don't get me wrong, I don't doubt these things. These things seem very consistent with what's shown on pretty much most media news platforms. However, the point isn't about that. The point is that you, as a skeptic, are supposed to support the things that you say. And if you say these things happen, I expect you to come with something. I do my best not to say something if I don't believe I have sufficient evidence for it and just say, I don't know, and ask questions. But that's not what you're doing. You're not asking questions. You're making definitive statements and not supporting the things you say. So why should I believe you?
I don't think that is what anybody wants to do, or at least not what anybody should be wanting to do. I don't think this is an excuse to go steal everything from Target. I don't think that that's a good look, and I've seen a lot of people speaking out against it that have been affected by racial profiling, and they don't feel that it's a good way to go about things. I understand the anger. I understand the rage. I just don't want anybody to get hurt in the process.
Wholeheartedly agree.
That is just an innocent bystander with a business. As far as the cops go, I've seen a few cops protesting with people, saying nice things. I've seen a lot of cops doing shitty things. I live in Los Angeles, and I am terrified. I keep hearing stories of people getting shot by the police with those, like, I guess they're rubber bullets, but those can still kill people. They can really hurt you. Like, I heard about a guy who he lost an eye because of it. Like, these things are dangerous, and cops shooting them, even at peaceful protesters, is so scary. I don't have
Okay, interesting claims. Citations? No. Well, all right then. This is the problem that I have. This is the other problem that I have with this video. Jacqueline says thing happened. Doesn't provide even an example or a citation. It'd be one thing if you said an article on the New York Times dated such and such. Even if you didn't put that citation in the link, then I go for myself. You say you see some police doing nice things and police doing shitty things, and I can say I see police doing nothing but great things. I've never seen a police officer do shitty things. And then Bob down the street can say he's always seen police do shitty things, never seen a good police officer a day in his life. Saying that you see things, saying that you hear things is not a valid claim. It does not support itself. It's just you saying things, and that's not good enough. You saying that they're shooting peaceful protesters, which isn't the most unbelievable thing in the world, but I'd like to see an example that they're using rubber bullets, and rubber bullets can kill you. I'd like to see an example of that a guy got his eye taken out. That sounds really serious. Can I get an example of that? You're saying a lot of things happened and you're not giving me a lot to work on, and you're a skeptic, and I know this. I know you're better than this, because I know if this was some creationist going around talking about how they had just been denied from all schools and no schools would let them teach creationism, I know you would do more research into that, and you wouldn't just say, oh, well, if they say there's a scientific bias against creationism, I guess it must be true. No, you would actually do the investigation. So I wonder why you would do such investigation when it comes to things like evolution, but don't do the investigation when it comes to things like this. Or maybe you did do the investigation and you just couldn't be bothered to share your work with us. Either way, I don't think you're doing a very good job as a skeptic right now.
A lot of personal experience with cops in my life. I have been pulled over before. Yes.
Now, see, if I was trying to do dramatic irony, what I could do right now is just dismiss everything you're about to say because you're a white person and you don't have a voice in this conversation. But that would be racist, because that would be me judging you by the color of your skin and not the content of your character. So I am going to listen to your story and your experiences, because your experiences matter just as much as everyone's does, because everyone's experience matters.
Sometimes it goes in my favor, sometimes it doesn't. I've had
Gee, it almost sounds like the police are a mixed bag and you can't judge them all at once.
cops treat me like shit before. I remember one time my grandma, this is back when I lived in Florida, got into a car accident, and I rushed out to see her to make sure she was okay. And the dude that was there, like the police officer, he was really condescending to me. He was like, sweetheart, like he was like talking down to me as though I was too stupid to understand what a car accident is. He wanted me to stay away from my grandma, and she was literally hyperventilating and crying for me to go over to her. And whenever he walked away, I went over to her, and he got mad, and I'm like, I'm not leaving, so what are you gonna do? So he just gave up and walked away, thankfully. But I mean, had I been black or had I been a man, I don't know that I would have had that same reaction. I mean,
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Based on the whole scenario that you just described, you said if you were black or a man, you don't know whether or not that situation would have played out the same. So what? What's the conclusion we're supposed to draw from that? What is the message and the point that you're trying to get across there? Because it sounds like you're using your personal ignorance as a justification for your support of Black Lives Matter. It doesn't sound like you have evidence for this. You're just like, I had a thing with the police one time, and I don't know if it would have went the same if I was a different color. Therefore, Black Lives Matter? What's the message that you want to put across with this? Because it doesn't seem to be a good or coherent or clear message at all. And that's just me being honest about the effectiveness of your communication skills. I do not understand why you thought this example would support anything, or what the point of this example even would be, except to say you personally don't know, therefore what?
Could have been hurt. He could have seen that as a perfect opportunity to physically harm somebody that he has discriminations towards.
He also could have, not, just like he didn't. That's also a possibility too. So how do we determine which is more likely in a given circumstance? This is what I mean. Just because he could have been more violent if you were black doesn't mean that he would have been more violent if you were black. Yeah, he could have been more violent and taken out his prejudices on you if you were black, but he also could have not done that. So where does that leave us? Yeah, God could exist, but God could also not exist. So where does that leave us? If you're trying to put across a message, it's very unclear what message you're trying to put across, and it's very unclear where you fit on this. Are you trying to say that we should support Black Lives Matter because you have instances where you don't know if the circumstances are going to turn out differently because of your race, or are you saying that doesn't matter? What I genuinely can't piece together the thought that you were trying to express.
And I know that that's a problem that so many people face, and it makes me sick. And I want.
How do you know that, though? Saying you know that is nice and all, but how do you know that?
Want to just say that I'm not okay with it. Say that I feel terrible that this still exists in 2020.
Oh my God, a thing exists in the current year. How terrible. But all sarcasm aside, snarky and sarcastic as this will come across, I don't need you to tell me that. I don't think anyone needs you to tell me that. No one needs Nike to put out a message saying that they support the Black community. No one needs PlayStation to put out a message saying that they support Black Lives Matter. No one needs those things. What they need is realistic, tangible, pragmatic change. So the fact that you say that is nice and all, but what are you going to do? Because if you're going to talk, then you're not going to do anything.
I hope that this has been a wake-up call to a lot of people, and hopefully things change from the...
It really has. I don't know what you mean when you say you hope that this has been a wake-up call. If you're referring to the incident itself, no, it really hasn't. Not for me, because I've always been skeptical, so I'm still skeptical. So this hasn't woken me up to anything. I am not woke. As far as the video in particular, you haven't demonstrated anything. You haven't made a case for anything. You just kind of made a bunch of bad analogies and assertions with no evidence. So I don't understand why this would change anyone's mind. If this was made for someone who did not agree with you, not necessarily saying they were on the complete opposite spectrum and were like, oh, racist or whatever, but for anybody who entered the discussion not agreeing with you on the subject, not having the same ideas, this probably will not sway their opinions, because you have neither given evidence for anything nor made good analogies or examples.
This point out, it's probably going to continue to be a struggle, but hopefully a struggle in the right direction. So,
and which direction is that?
My larger point in making this is to say I stand with the Black community.
Why? And I'm serious. This is a legitimate question. Why do you stand with the Black community? What does it mean when you say you stand with the Black community? I genuinely don't understand the concept of standing with a community. I would think that you would stand with people and people's rights being protected, regardless of what their race is. I would assume that you would stand with all communities. And if there are communities that you don't stand with, why don't you stand with those communities? And if you do stand with all communities, why not just say that? Why not further dignify the humanity of Black people by addressing them as humans and holding their lives as human lives that are being taken, instead of them being the Black ones? Why not say you want and support everybody instead of just the Black ones? And I know she's not saying just the Black ones, but the phrasing implies that. Enter in with a piece of message to say that you support everyone regardless of race, and this is wrong regardless of whose race it is, and this needs to stop, period. Instead of this needs to stop for the Black ones. There is no the Black community. Black is a categorization, not a community, because being Black does not entail a sense of camaraderie, shared goals, values, hopes, dreams, fears, none of those things. The Black community is a wide variety of individuals with a wide variety of experiences, hopes, thoughts, dreams, and feelings, and you cannot effectively lump all those individuals together and call that a community, despite them being so vastly different from each other, just because they vaguely sort of kind of look alike. So, with that being said, you should not support the Black community. You should support good Black people. You should not support the bad ones, the ones that hurt people, the ones that steal, the ones that do terrible things. You should not support them. You should support the good ones, the good all people. So my message to you is do not support based on race, support based on morality, support based on good people, support based on who deserves it, not who just so happened to be born with a certain race.
I am not okay with the way things are going right now. The treatment is horrifying, and I hope more than anything that this kind of shit is in the past very soon. I want to say thank you to everybody who is out protesting peacefully. Thank you for standing up. Thank you to everybody posting online and using your voice to stand together, because I think the more voices, the louder we're going to be.
This is again one of those things that I know the loudest voice isn't the voice that's most correct, and your primary concern should be being the most correct voice, not the loudest voice. You know what an SJW is. You know what an extreme feminist is. You understand that they can be very, very loud, and it doesn't matter how loud they are, they're still wrong. So that's a bad message to encourage loudness instead of encouraging correctness or accuracy.
Also, thank you to everybody out there trying to help businesses rebuild. I see people out there scrubbing windows, repairing windows, funding for businesses to restart. So there's a lot of good going on. There's a lot of people that are doing the right thing. And hopefully that amount of positivity and goodwill will overwhelm the sickening, dark part of humanity that we're all seeing very clear right here.
Also, I'd like to point out something she said a bit earlier in regards to the world that she wants her children to grow up in. This is a world that has elected a Black man president twice. This is a world in which Black people can become whatever they want to be they politicians, be they athletes, be they actors, be they scientists. Black people have the possibility, the capability to achieve anything that they want to achieve in America. And yet that's the country you don't want your children to grow up in, because sometimes Black people get mistreated just like everybody else gets mistreated sometimes.
Here is some information and some different ways that you can help or donate. I want to promote this. I want you guys to help if you are in a financial place to be able to do so.
Quick side note on this. When it comes to donations and organizations and things like that, I don't know any of these organizations, so that means I'm going to have to go do my own research on these organizations. I don't know what their agendas are. I don't know what their goals are. So I don't know why I should support or donate to these organizations I've never heard of if I don't know what their goals are. I don't think blind encouragement and blind support for things that aren't clearly explained is a good thing. Explain to me what the GoFundMe for George Floyd is. Oh, this is a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe is because his family doesn't have the money to support a funeral right now, and it would really do their hearts well if we could raise the money to give him a proper burial. All right, bam, you got me. Now I'll donate to that. Actually explain these things and actually explain why I should support these things instead of saying support these people because reasons.
I know right now during quarantine, it can be really difficult because a lot of people are out of jobs. A lot of people that are supposed to be getting checks aren't getting checks. And the government and the entire world, I feel like right now, is just a mess. The fear of coronavirus is in the back of my mind too. And whenever I think of people out there protesting, like, that scares me. You're out there using your voice to try to do some good in the world, but it could really harm you.
So that's a side issue for the moment, the coronavirus and how that affects this entire thing. Because if we are going to just disregard quarantine for this and end up doing more harm than good to ourselves in the process, it defeats the purpose. At this point, as far as I have been made aware, all 3 police officers have been charged and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So why are we still protesting? What's the point? What is our goal? If the goal was to get justice for George Floyd, the goal has been accomplished. So now what? Why are we continuing to put our lives at risk?
I just want to encourage everybody to say something if you can. I really do think that being quiet right now is not the right thing to do. I don't think that's the answer. And if you can use your voice to change even one person's mind, then it's more than worth it. And even if you don't change anybody's mind, letting the world know where you stand, letting people know that you are there for them, you're standing there with them, and that you care could be extremely comforting to somebody. So, like,
is it comfort that we should be concerned with, or is it the truth? Because I think we should be concerned with the truth. As much as I do believe that comfort is important, I don't believe it's important to blindly comfort people. I believe that we need to tell the truth, and we need to look for the truth, and that our skepticism is warranted first and foremost. I will understand and, as best I can, attempt to empathize with the emotions people express, but I will not support someone who is doing something that I think is either ineffective or actively harming people, that being protests and riots, respectively.
Like I said, even though people have told me not to make this video, that it's not my place, I feel like it's important to say something regardless and let the world know where you stand. I would really love to hear everybody's thoughts in the comments section below. I know it shouldn't even be a controversial topic. Why is this a controversial topic? I feel
who gets to decide what is and is not a controversial topic? I think that just demonstrates that you don't understand why it's a controversial topic. But just because you don't understand why something's a controversial topic doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a controversial topic. And I don't even think you understand what the controversy of the topic is. The controversy of the topic is not George Floyd, was the man innocent or not, because there seems to be almost unanimous agreement on that. The controversy is going forward. What's the best solutions? What goals should we be working towards? Is this about race, or is this about power? Is it about a combination of both? It's a conversation that is diverse and has many subsets to it and many nuances to it. It's not so much that it's controversial as much as it is complex. And when people try to introduce complexities into what people want to be a simple black and white conversation, that is where the controversy comes from.
feel like everybody should be on the same page right now, but I'm not going to assume that because I am always disappointed.
But how do you know which page is the right page? Presumably, you looked at the evidence and made a decision, and you came down on one side harder than the other and decided that that was the right page. How do you think everybody else should do that? Because based on your video, I don't think you think everybody else should do that. They should just all agree with you. Why is it important that people just all be on the same side as opposed to people do what they think is right, advocate for what they think is best, do their own research and support the positions that they think is best? I do not want anyone to look at this stream and just mindlessly believe or accept anything that I say. What I want is for you to do your own research, to come to your own conclusions and investigate on your own. Do not mindlessly believe me. Do not mindlessly believe Deconverted Man. Fact check anything and everything we've said in this video and anything and everything you hear elsewhere. Skepticism first, foremost, and before everything else. Because if you can't be skeptical and you can just be taken in by any woo that happens to come first, then you will do more harm than good. So I don't want everyone to be on the same page. I want everyone to be educated and informed, even if that means we're on different pages. As long as we all do our own investigations, look up our own things, do our own research, and do our best to learn the truth, that's my concern. Do your best to learn the truth, do your own research, and don't believe anything without sufficient research. That's the message I want to impart to everyone. Be skeptical. Be skeptical of Jacqueline. Be skeptical of me. Be skeptical of CNN. Be skeptical of Fox. Be skeptical of anyone and everything, and only come to conclusions when you feel you have good, solid, compelling evidence and not a moment before. And on that note, I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, I appreciate you a lot.